Welcome, my friends, to Salt City Counseling. Once again, my name's Scott Carter. I am a licensed therapist. If you're new here, this is my series on depression. This is my next installment on my series on depression. We need to have better conversations about depression. We're not having good enough conversations about depression. I'm finding that as I work to have better conversations about depression, it's very polarizing, man. Some people are just like, wow, this is the conversation that we needed to have, and other people are like, how dare you, you monster. I can't believe you're not just going along with this broken system that does nothing to help depressed people. I can't believe that you are not propagating these played out, stagnant, limiting conversations about depression. Listen, I love my work. I hate my industry. I really do. I don't like the mental health industry. I don't like the healthcare industry. I feel like it is done poorly. I feel like it's dogmatic and stuck in its ways, and I feel like mental health can be done better. I'm here, and really, I really set out every day as I practice as a practitioner to prove it, and so I want to have these outside of the box conversations about depression. Now, in this video, I am going to talk about what I believe, what I've come to believe are actually the real causes of depression and why so many of us are actually depressed, why and how it has become so pervasive, and what I think will actually help lead us out of it. What I think we actually need, what I actually think a big piece of the puzzle is, a big piece of the pie. And so I'm going to get to that in a second. So if you're new here, spread the good word, man. Share the video, like the video. You know what to do. Smash that like button. And so, before I used to like, oh, hey, go to my website, do this. Honestly, at this point, the main reason I'm doing a YouTube channel at this point is, honestly, the only thing, and I'm actually going to get back to this, sometimes the only thing that actually gives me a good reason to get out of bed sometimes is to feel like just maybe I can do some good in the world. And at this point, that's the main thing that I want as we continue to, you know what I'm saying? I just feel like we need a little bit more goodwill and altruism. So, anyways, let's get to this. I'm going to tie this back to why I'm here and what I hope my purpose is maybe. And so the idea that's in my head came from a book that I read. And I read this book, time is such a blur these days. I think it was about 2.5 years ago that I read this book. It's called Lost Connections. Johann Hari, I believe. Hari. I can put Lost Connections. Just, look for Lost Connections. And he is not a clinician. He's not a practitioner, but he wrote an excellent book about depression. He makes the argument that the reason why we are so depressed and the reason why we have such deep and profound and pervasive depression is because our society and our culture is now become just a series of vapid, meaningless exercises in total futility. Okay, I added some of my own words in there, but truly, on a personal note, one of my biggest struggles in life is nihilism. If you're not familiar with nihilism, nihilism is basically the sense or the feeling or the belief that almost everything that we do is pointless and meaningless. And there's really no point in anything. And I think it's really super duper easy to feel that way in our current culture and our current society. I really think our society and our culture, our way of living, is not one that we can thrive in. I think our culture, the fabric of our daily lives and the way that we live is counterproductive to living in a meaningful or connected way. And without meaningful connections, he makes this argument in the book. Without meaningful connections, we're going to be depressed. We are depressed, and there's a good reason why we're depressed, is because we lack these meaningful connections. And frankly, I entirely agree with him. I completely agree with him. In fact, it would seem as though we've become so disconnected from things that are meaningful to us that we are now accepting it as normal. We don't even question anymore, right? We've stopped questioning what actually gives us purpose and meaning. What makes us want to get out of bed every day? And so after reading that book as a practitioner, it really shook me up. It really, really forced me to abandon ship on this, what I consider to be pathological nonsense when it comes to addressing or treating depression as like a healthcare worker, and realizing that what we are spoon fed as practitioners, I think is not helpful to people whatsoever. Like, people need help. They are in the depths of despair. They need help. They need our help, and I don't understand why we as clinicians continue to stay married to this garbage that doesn't help people. That, oh, you just have a chemical imbalance, there's something wrong with you. No, there's something wrong with our lifestyle. There's something entirely wrong with our lifestyle. I would highly recommend that book, Lost Connections. Go check it out. It's great. It's a super good book. So he makes the argument again that we lack meaningful connections. I'm going to give some examples. Number one, we lack meaningful work. Do you just work like my best friend? The guy's like a brother to me. Shout out. He is one of my subscribers. So if you're watching, buddy, I'm thinking about you. And I would say this directly to his face. I can't imagine finding any meaning in the work that he does. It's just, to me, from the outside looking in, it just looks like this corporate soulless nightmare. Um, and even my work, where I feel like it's good to help people, it's good to see people grow, it's good to have connections with people. I get drowned in paperwork and insurance claims and continuing education and policies and government hoop jumping, and it really, really takes the joy out of it. It really does. It really does. We've regulated to absolute death, but we lack meaningful work. Okay, we lack meaningful connection to nature. We lack meaningful connections to each other. We lack a meaningful connection to a positive and hopeful future. Okay, and these are, again, just some of the examples that he gives, and I entirely agree with him. We don't have these things. We wake up, and I hear this from young people all the time. I do a lot of work with young people, like young adults and teenagers, and a lot of them are like, what's the point? Why are we doing all of this? Because the only thing that we can come up with is because we were told we're supposed to. Or we're told we're supposed to go to school and go to college and get a job and buy a house and be miserable for the rest of our lives. Well, because you're supposed to. Don't ask questions. Just do it. And what are we doing? And so I make the argument, too, along these lines, that one of the reasons that we're depressed is that we are truly lacking meaningful connections in our lives. And one of the reasons why we're lacking that is because so many of us have become afraid to live our own lives and be our own people and spread our wings and live on our terms and live the way that we want to. Like, I really truly feel like our culture is like the new Puritanism, like strict conformity, or you're evil. You must exactly do this, you must exactly think that. Otherwise, you're evil. I'm talking about on both sides of the aisle, by the way. Just when it comes to politics, kill me, man. It seems like no matter what side of the aisle the people are on in politics, is like they ride their high horse around. You can set that sucker out to pasture, my friends. It doesn't matter what side you're on. It's still the same, like, strict conformity Puritanism. What makes a good person or what makes a bad person. Don't be selfish. Blah, 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 blah. Yakety schmackety. And people are afraid to live authentically. People are afraid to search for what gives them purpose or meaning out of fear that it's going to garner the label of being selfish. Since our lives have become open display on the internet now. And so, on that note, if it doesn't hurt anybody, why is it selfish, right? If you decide, like, I don't want to go to college, I want to travel. I want to backpack around Europe. I don't know if that's a real thing anymore, but it used to be. And it used to be kind of the symbol of, like, ultimate freedom, right? Well, I want to live in a van. There you go. That's the new one, right? I want to live in a van and drive around the country and see the country and park my van on the beach and wake up to the beach. And not gonna lie, there's a certain amount of appeal to that because there's a lot of freedom attached to it. You're not tied down, right? And it can give people a sense of meaning. You actually find yourself through the struggle. And so we lack meaningful struggle. We lack meaning in working through our struggles because we're in full time escapism now. Okay, so food for thought, right? If one of the reasons that we're depressed, again, I am on board with this, is because our life lacks meaning and purpose or connection to purposeful and meaningful things, right? Then the task would be to find those meaningful connections, and to go get that figured out. Because I'll tell you this, you're not going to find it playing video games. You're not going to find it through smoking pot. You're not going to find it by sitting around and scrolling through social media. You're not going to find it by getting on Twitter and screaming at people, or whatever, right? You're not going to find it by blaming the Democrats and or Republicans for all of your problems. I don't know, man. I think it's really easy to get just caught doing the same thing over and over and over again, and then sit around and scratch your heads why we're unhappy, right? Anyways, food for thought, man. Think about this, right? What would give you a sense of meaning or purpose in your life? Okay? So, thank you for watching. Probably have one or two more in our series on depression. And don't forget to subscribe and like and share and all that stuff. We'll see you in the next one.